Everyone told us, pay off the mortgage, David, be free. And we did. We sacrificed vacations. We drove beat-up cars for decades just to own these four walls free and clear. Now, I am 70. The bank doesn't own the house anymore, but the house owns us. Property taxes are $12,000 a year. Repairs are another $5,000. We are house rich, but we are cash poor. We can't eat the drywall. We can't travel with roof tiles. We are basically janitors for a 4-bedroom house that nobody visits anymore. They call it the American dream. But looking at my bank account today, it feels like a very expensive prison.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing something a little different. We are not looking at the classic, glossy, how to get rich stories.
No, not at all.
Or even the careful how to retire successfully manuals. We're opening up something far more intense, far more urgent, and frankly, it's heartbreaking. We're going deep into the archives of regret.
We've given the source material a very clinical-sounding title. It's called The Twilight Financial Archives, Confessions from the End of the Road.
Right.
But there is absolutely nothing clinical about the stories inside. I mean, the final testimonies, the letters, the recorded confessions of ordinary Americans.
All over 70.
All over 70. And they're people who followed the rule book perfectly. They saved, they sacrificed, they did exactly what every financial guru, every family member told them to do for 40 years.
And what happened?
They crossed the finish line only to realize they played the entire financial game wrong.
That is the core shock of this deep dive. Our mission today isn't to celebrate success, but to extract these urgent, almost desperate secrets that the younger generation, that you, the listener, desperately need to hear.
Right.
We're peeling back the veneer of that standard financial success story to uncover a really profound and I think tragic reality of being, rich but miserable.
And think about that standard advice. That decades-old wisdom.
Save every penny.
Pay off your mortgage as fast as humanly possible. Defer your taxes until retirement.
The big three.
The big three. And what we found in these archives is just concrete, devastating evidence that this universally accepted wisdom is actively causing deep, palpable regret for the very people who followed it, without question.
The emotional weight in these documents is it's overwhelming.
It really is. And the most shocking realization isn't that people wish they had started saving sooner or even that they had saved more. I mean, sure, some of that is in there. But the overriding regret, the collective gasp from the end of the road, is that they wish they had saved differently, specifically in terms of structure and liquidity.
Or that they had spent more.
Exactly. That they had strategically spent more on their lives when they had the physical capacity and, the energy to actually enjoy it.
So to give this all some shape, we've structured our deep dive around 3 major financial traps that the elders themselves revealed.
The first is the tax trap, and that centers around the traditional 401k. Then we have the equity trap, which is all about the crushing burden of the paid-off mortgage.
And finally, the time trap.
That's the ultimate philosophical tragedy of hoarding wealth.
Look, these aren't just minor financial missteps. These are emotional disasters that cost decades of happiness and peace of mind. The urgency in their voices is so real. It's like they're trying to reach back through time to warn us.
It feels like an intervention.
It really does. Okay, let's unpack this. So we'll start with the financial structure that it literally defined middle-class saving in the United States for decades. The traditional tax-deferred 401k.
The default option.
Exactly, the default. Our first cautionary tale comes from a man named Arthur M. He's 72. And his story is particularly gut-wrenching because he explicitly says, and I'm quoting here, "I did exactly what they told me. I never missed a company match."
For 30 years, he saved diligently. He watched that 401k balance grow and grow, and he finally hit what he thought was the magic number.
$1 million. He retired, he felt confident, he believed that $1 million was the ultimate security blanket. It was, in his words, a lot of money.
And that confidence it shattered almost instantly the moment he actually started trying to use that money to fund his life.
We need to just pause on that for a second. The emotional weight of that disillusionment.
Yes.
He achieved the American dream, he got the nest egg, only to discover it was fundamentally an illusion.
His $1 million balance was a gross figure. It was a number that only existed on paper and was built on a mountain of deferred tax liabilities.
Which brings us right to trap number 1, the silent partner.
Right. When you contribute to a traditional tax-deferred account like a 401k, you're not paying taxes on the money going in, you're not paying taxes on the growth. That feels great at the time.
It feels like a win.
It feels like a huge win. But what you're really doing is just deferring this massive tax liability until the moment you retire and you actually need to withdraw it.
And Arthur realized that Uncle Sam was, in fact, his silent partner, just sitting there, waiting patiently for decades to claim his share.
And it's a big share. He quickly calculated that his $1 million nest egg immediately became something closer to $700,000 after basic federal and state taxes.
Wow, a 30% haircut right off the top.
Right off the top. And that's before he's even spent a dime on living expenses or, accounted for any other income streams he might have.
And I have to say, that 30% estimate, that often feels like a conservative assumption, doesn't it?
It absolutely can be, especially for people in higher tax states, or maybe they retired with a small pension or some rental income. All of that gets added together.
So the core tragedy here is just the complete lack of control that Arthur now faces.
That's it. He is forced to pay taxes at whatever rate Congress dictates now during his fixed income years. If he had paid those taxes years ago when he was an active earner,
He might have been in a lower bracket.
he was likely in a lower income bracket. He had more deductions. He had far more financial, maneuvering room. He traded all that control for a simple, immediate tax break. And now the government is the one setting the price of his retirement.
But the pain was doubled because there's a second trap here, right?
Trap 2. And this one is just as devastating. The slow, grinding erosion of inflation over 40 years.
Arthur describes this so perfectly in his letter, it's really poignant. He remembers the 50-cent cup of coffee.
The $2 movie ticket.
And now they cost $5 and $15, respectively. So if his investment growth barely outpaced inflation, which is often the case, and then 30% of it is immediately lost to taxes,
The actual usable value of his savings just diminishes so rapidly. It's a double squeeze. He's getting hit from both sides.
and the archives repeatedly highlight how catastrophic this double squeeze becomes when it's coupled with the reality of just getting older.
High medical bills. As
Yeah.
people age, their largest single unplanned expenditure very often becomes healthcare.
So Arthur, now 72, he saw these massive unexpected medical costs. A knee replacement, chronic prescriptions.
If those costs started consuming what was left of his $700,000 usable savings at just an alarming rate.
This wasn't part of the plan. He saved for leisure, for travel.
But he's spending on survival.
And here is the stark, just chilling reality that Arthur faces. The moment that really defines the urgency of this archive. At 72 years old, after decades of diligent saving, after hitting that $1 million mark, he is actively looking for a job as a greeter at Walmart.
Not for fun, not for social engagement.
No, but because his Social Security barely covers his, elevated rent and food costs, and his remaining nest egg is just being systematically dismantled by taxes and medical bills.
This is the consequence of saving blindly, of not understanding purchasing power, and crucially, not understanding tax structure.
Arthur's warning, which comes through this immense personal loss, is just visceral. He's screaming, don't just save blindly in the default tax-deferred vehicle. You have to aggressively look at a Roth IRA or other after-tax savings vehicles.
Which is the perfect transition to Elizabeth B's testimony. She's in Case Study 05, and her story provides the direct alternative, and it really illuminates the regret of not choosing it.
Elizabeth, she's 75 now, and she admits that back in her 30s, she actively ignored the Roth IRA option.
She thought, why pay taxes now if I don't have to? I mean, it makes sense, right? Deferring sounds frugal and sensible.
And for many years, that immediate tax deduction, it felt like a clear win.
But that immediate temporary win led to a catastrophic compounding domino effect later in her life.
Okay, so we need to spend some time explaining the technical penalties she's facing now because she's stuck with that traditional deferred IRA.
Right. So the government doesn't let you keep that money sheltered from them forever. Once you hit a certain age, right now it's 73, you are forced to take what are called required minimum distributions, or RMDs.
So they force you to take money out.
Yes. The government mandates withdrawals based on your balance and your life expectancy, even if you don't need the money to live. They're doing it purely to collect the taxes that they let you defer for all those years.
And this is where the financial planning just completely breaks down for people who thought they planned perfectly.
Absolutely. Because the traditional IRA forces these, substantial RMD withdrawals. And that withdrawal is then counted as ordinary taxable income on top of your Social Security or any other pension.
So for Elizabeth, the RMDs are big enough that they actually push her into a higher marginal tax bracket.
A tax bracket she might never have hit if she'd had control over her own income streams.
So she's paying higher taxes now in retirement than she would have if she just paid them back in her lower earning 30s.
Yes, it is pure government-dictated tax pain. She made the wrong choice by deferring.
And the financial pain compounds even further.
It does, because those forced RMDs trigger something many young savers just.
Yeah.
You never even think about it. It's called IRMA surcharges.
Okay, let's break that down. IRAA.
IRMA stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. When a retiree's adjusted gross income, or AGI, and remember, those RMDs are a huge part of AGI, when that number exceeds certain thresholds.
Which aren't that high, really.
No, they're not hard to breach with substantial RMDs. The government then charges you significantly increased premiums for Medicare Parts B and D.
Okay, let's make that concrete. So Elizabeth's choice to save on taxes in her 30s means that now, in her 70s,
She is being forced by the government to withdraw a large sum of money,
which inflates her income.
pushing her into a higher tax bracket.
And at the same time, it forces her to pay higher Medicare premiums.
Yes, she's being penalized for being too successful in her tax deferral strategy. It is a cascading financial punishment, a penalty on top of a tax, on top of a forced withdrawal.
That is just. It's a bitter truth.
For many people, this compounding penalty is enough to completely erase any benefit they got from that initial tax deduction decades ago. The system is designed to reward the government's patience, not the retiree's planning.
And finally, Elizabeth's regret goes beyond her own lifetime, which is a key emotional thread we see over and over in the archives.
Yes, she realized she was leaving a mess for her heirs. Because those traditional IRA assets, they pass to her children and grandchildren fully taxable as ordinary income.
So they inherit a tax bill.
They inherit a tax liability. Conversely, if she'd used a Roth IRA, that wealth would have passed entirely tax-free to her grandkids. She could have maximized her legacy and minimized their burden.
What's fascinating here is the regret for both Arthur and Elizabeth. It's less about saving too little. They were great savers.
They were diligent savers. It's all about saving in the wrong structure.
Their warnings combine into one powerful, urgent lesson for anyone listening.
Paying taxes now, when you have control over your tax bracket, the Roth strategy, is fundamentally better than paying taxes later, when the government dictates the rate, the schedule, and then tax on penalties like IRMAA.
They sacrificed financial control for a temporary tax break decades ago.
And now they're paying the price in the only currency that really matters: their quality of life in their golden years.
So if the 401k tax structure was the first major trap, the second one is, it's maybe the most deeply entrenched belief in American financial culture.
The paid-off mortgage.
Paid off mortgage. It is considered the ultimate non-negotiable definition of success.
It's the holy grail.
It is. And we now turn to Sarah and David L., ages 68 and 70, whose devastating letter describes this realization as the American nightmare disguised as a dream. Their lifelong goal was that standard, sacred pillar of financial stability, owning a 4-bedroom home, free and clear of all debt.
And we really have to emphasize the immense weight of that expectation, the societal pressure behind this goal. For generations, we've been told that debt freedom, especially mortgage debt freedom, is the ultimate sign of security.
And Sarah and David, they achieved this through immense effort. Their letter details just enormous sacrifices.
They poured every spare penny into extra payments on the principal. They drove, in their words, dangerous, beat-up cars that constantly needed repairs.
They sacrificed nearly all family vacations, discretionary spending for decades. All of this dedication for one explicit, powerful goal, achieving that final debt-free moment.
But once they hit it, once the paperwork was signed and the debt was zero, that euphoria just faded so quickly.
And it was replaced by a devastating emotional paradox. They own the house. It's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity, but as Sarah states with this crushing clarity, we can't eat the drywall.
Their wealth, their security, is trapped in an asset that generates no income and provides rapidly diminishing utility, right? Their children have moved out, their physical needs have changed.
This is the technical trap of illiquidity. You're asset rich, but you're cash poor.
They maximize their net worth, but they minimize their accessible cash flow. The financial breakdown they gave us in the archives is just stark evidence of the actual cost of ownership, even without a mortgage payment.
So what are we talking about?
They face massive, unavoidable property taxes, Their annual bill is over $12,000.
12 grand a year just in taxes.
And then there's maintenance, unexpected roof repairs, appliance replacements. That adds another $5,000 annually, on average.
Wait, so they are paying $17,000 a year, year after year, just to keep the house that they worked their entire lives to own.
Yes. That demands a constant, significant cash flow that, as fixed-income retirees whose earning potential has plummeted, they just don't have.
So they're being financially drained by the very asset they thought would secure their future.
They become custodians of their own illiquidity. They're trapped. They successfully traded an accessible, flexible future for an illiquid, expensive present.
Their letter expresses this profound regret. They said they became janitors for a house nobody visits anymore.
It's heartbreaking. The house is no longer a tool for family life. It's a financial burden. It's a part-time job that involves endless repairs and writing checks for property taxes.
And if they could go back 40 years, what would they do differently? Their answer is so clear and so painful.
They would have maintained a manageable strategic mortgage. And they would have invested that extra cash, all those aggressive principal payments, into a diversified liquid investment vehicle, like an S&P 500 index fund.
This contrast is it's absolutely vital for anyone listening. We're looking at two financial outcomes side by side.
On one hand, you have trapped equity. It's locked into bricks. It's subject to, slow appreciation, often less than the market historically. It has high maintenance costs and total illiquidity.
And on the other hand,
liquid, accessible, growing investments. I mean, think about the math. If they had a mortgage at a historic low rate, say 4%, but their invested capital returned an average of 8% in the market,
then every extra payment they made on the principal actually cost them 4% in lost growth.
yes, they were paying down cheap debt instead of letting their capital work hard for them.
That sacrificed growth is the travel budget they no longer have. It's the peace of mind they've lost now that they are scrambling to find $17,000 every year just for taxes and upkeep.
It's the flexibility to handle a medical emergency without having to sell their home.
I have to play devil's advocate here, though. I mean, for a lot of people, the psychological stress relief of being debt-free, it's invaluable. How do you quantify the emotional cost of not having that peace of mind?
And that's the central challenge, and the archives address it directly. The psychological benefit of zero debt is absolutely real. But it is so often prioritized over the practical necessity of zero-stress cash flow in retirement.
The L's now have more stress.
They have more stress. Because they have this massive, valuable asset, they can't easily liquidate, and they have no cash for their immediate needs. Their letter suggests that for low-interest debt, the peace of mind you gain from debt freedom is ultimately canceled out by the financial stress of cash scarcity in retirement.
They traded flexible wealth for a fixed security, and now that security is suffocating them.
It really challenges the core dogma we were all raised on, right? That debt is always bad.
Always.
The archive suggests that for strategically leveraged, low-interest, long-term debt, like a home mortgage, that debt is actually a tool for creating liquid wealth somewhere else.
They traded an accessible future for an illiquid present.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this shows that maximizing your net worth on a balance sheet doesn't always maximize your quality of life or your comfort in retirement.
They focused obsessively on eliminating the psychological burden of a number, that mortgage debt,
at the expense of creating flexible, usable wealth that appreciated faster than their debt cost. When you're evaluating that payoff decision, you have to ask, does this debt truly compromise my financial security, or is this extra payment better leveraged as a liquid asset growing in a tax-advantaged account?
And for Sarah and David, that answer arrived far too late,
leaving them trapped in a large, expensive house they can barely afford to heat.
So we've discussed the deferred tax liability. We've talked about the toxicity of illiquid assets. Now we get to what I believe is the ultimate, most painful tragedy revealed in these Twilight archives.
The time trap.
The time trap. This is the philosophical, deeply emotional warning about the consequences of perpetual wealth accumulation and the endless postponement of joy.
And our case study for this is case study 03, a man named Thomas J., age 81. He's the quintessential miser.
Thomas's confession is maybe the most shocking because, by all traditional metrics, he was a roaring financial success.
Unbelievably successful. He was financially disciplined beyond measure. He reached a net worth of $3 million by age 65. That is a truly significant life-altering accomplishment.
But how did he do it?
He did it through radical, often pathological deprivation. He admits it. He says, I was a miser. I admit it. I walked around with holes in my shoes to save $50. I drove my beat-up car until the doors fell off.
So this wasn't careful budgeting. This was an addiction.
It was an addiction to accumulation, a pathology that prioritized the number on the screen over the comfort and quality of his daily life.
And the emotional devastation is tied entirely to his timing. He spent his entire life deferring enjoyment, always waiting for later.
A later that ever came.
He told his wife, the person he wanted to share all this with, when we are 70, when the number is safe, we will finally take that big European cruise.
She died unexpectedly at 68.
The profound loss of that deferred experience is what just absolutely haunts him.
Now, Thomas is 81. He has the $3 million in the bank. He can easily afford the most expensive luxury cruise in the world, the finest clothes, the best medical care.
But the money is useless.
It's useless. He has severe arthritis. He can't walk well enough to navigate a large cruise ship. And most devastatingly, he has no one to go with. The currency he truly needed wasn't dollars. It was health, energy, and companionship.
All non-renewable resources.
Non-renewable resources that he squandered in this single-minded pursuit of a number he never actually intended to spend.
This brings us to Thomas's crucial insight about the utility of money. It's this profound philosophical realization born of deep, isolating regret.
He says that money is not constant in its usefulness. It's most useful, he argues, when you are young and healthy, in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s.
When you have the physical ability to travel, to learn new skills, launch a business, build indelible experiences with your young family.
Exactly. Its intrinsic functional value, he notes, drops to near zero when you are in a hospital bed.
That's a critical insight that our finance culture often just completely misses. We track money linearly, right? We assume its value remains constant over time.
But its utility, its capacity to translate into meaningful life experience is curve-based. Think of it this way, for everyone listening. Imagine money is gasoline.
Okay.
You need it most, and it provides maximum utility when the engine of your body is strong and roaring in your 30s. At 80, you might have a full tank of gas, but the engine is seized, the roads you wanted to travel are all closed.
That is a powerful metaphor. $1 spent on a physically demanding backpacking trip at 35.
Or taking a year off to travel with small children.
It has infinitely higher utility. It generates far more lasting experience dividends than that same dollar spent on a luxury orthopedic mattress or endless medical bills at 80.
Thomas wasted his life accumulating numbers on a statement instead of accumulating memories and experiences with his wife.
His powerful final quote, it really encapsulates the entire archive's warning. It just echoes beyond the grave. Don't be the richest man in the graveyard.
It's the ultimate indictment of a financial approach that blindly prioritizes accumulation over life lived, over quality of experience, over timing your spending to your physical capability.
And this confession connects directly to a modern, and I know it's controversial, but a modern financial philosophy. The idea often summarized as die with zero.
Right. And it's not a call to be irresponsible or spend everything recklessly. That's a misinterpretation.
Yeah.
It's a call to strategically time your large experiential spending to coincide with your peak physical ability and your specific life stage.
And this archive provides concrete, tragic proof that waiting until you are safe to spend might mean you wait until you are physically incapable of enjoying what that money buys.
Thus, rendering the money effectively worthless.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We are seeing concrete evidence that financial decisions are fundamentally decisions about time and health.
When you save $50 by walking around with holes in your shoes like Thomas did, you aren't just saving $50.
No. You're prioritizing a marginal number on your statement over the quality of your day, over your personal comfort, over the potential for an early needed experience.
It's a fundamental failure to understand the diminishing returns of wealth utility. We have to ask ourselves, how much is enough to be secure, and what is the real cost of accumulating beyond that point?
Thomas's life provides the chilling answer. Okay, shifting gears a bit now. We move from the philosophy of excessive accumulation to the practical danger of late-stage impatience.
This is the flip side of the miser's coin.
Exactly. This is the person who saved diligently, realized they didn't have enough, and then took catastrophic risks when their time horizon was vanishing.
We're looking at Michael R., age 64, and the danger of high-risk gambles when time is running out.
Michael's confession starts with a really familiar feeling. Hubris. He felt smart. He was seduced by the late 90s tech boom.
And then again by the crypto frenzy and the high-flying stocks in his late 50s and early 60s.
This is a classic pattern we see recurring across the archives. It's not just the failure of conservative planning, but the failure of desperate, aggressive planning near the finish line.
Right. Michael, having likely seen his retirement savings not performing as well as he'd hoped, I mean, maybe he was Arthur, right? Suffering from that tax shock and inflation erosion, he sought a quick, dramatic fix.
So he tried to day trade. He tried to invest aggressively with money he absolutely could not afford to lose.
And he describes the psychological dynamic of speculative investing perfectly. He says he was winning at first.
Of course, that initial success is the hook.
It's the hook. Those early, easy gains reinforce this dangerous belief that you can beat the market, that you're the exception to the rule, or that you can make up for decades of slow growth in a single year.
But the archive reminds us that the market eventually
Always humbles you. The euphoria of the short-term win leads directly to the long-term devastation.
And for Michael, that humility came at the worst possible, most irreversible time. He lost 60% of his retirement savings, his life savings, at the age of 62.
That is a catastrophic, arguably terminal loss. And the key word there is terminal.
Which leads us directly to the crucial difference between taking a risk at 25 versus taking that same risk at 62. It's the loss of human capital.
Yes. We need to define this for the listener, because this is maybe the single most important asset that a young listener possesses.
So what is it?
When you are 25, your investment portfolio is probably small. But your primary and most valuable asset isn't your stocks or bonds. It's your human capital.
Your decades of remaining time, health.
And most importantly, your guaranteed ability to work and earn an income. If a 25-year-old loses everything in a bad investment, they still have 40 years of high-utility time to work, save, and let compounding recover that loss. They have time to make mistakes.
But for Michael at 64, a 60% loss is not just a setback. The archives call it a death sentence.
The difference is staggering. When you lose money late in life, the earning engine is sputtering out. You have maybe 5 or 10 years of working life left, if you're lucky. And you're far more susceptible to health issues that could force you into retirement early.
The time required for recovery is exponential, right? A 25-year-old needs a few years of solid market performance.
A 64-year-old needs a market miracle. Michael's regret is so profound because he now realizes he has to work until he physically collapses. He cannot earn back that lost principal, and time is no longer compounding for him. It's compounding against him.
He gambled his life's remaining resource, his energy and time for a quick fix.
And his conclusion is painfully simple. It should be, laminated by every young investor. Greed leads to quick poverty.
Boring is good, index funds are good, get rich slowly.
It's the antithesis to the miser, Thomas. But they both committed the same underlying tragedy. They failed to respect the finite nature and immense power of time and finance.
This brings us to the synthesis of time and compounding, which the key lessons section of the archives just hammers home as the only true magic in finance.
Compounding interest is entirely dependent on time, especially the initial years. The archives provide a specific, startling detail that should shake every young listener.
What is it?
Waiting from age 25 to 35 to start investing. Just a 10-year delay cuts your potential wealth at retirement by approximately half.
By half, that is an immense and terrifying cost. A 10-year delay costs you 50% of the final destination.
It just shows that the biggest financial advantage you possess isn't smart trading, like Michael thought.
Or perfectly minimizing marginal taxes, like Arthur tried.
It's the immediate utilization of the compound curve. Time is not money. Time is exponential money.
So if you are listening and you have time on your side, meaning you're under 50 and healthy,
the safest, most critical, and most rewarding financial action you can take is to start investing immediately, even if the amounts are small.
Every day you wait is exponentially more damaging than a slight fluctuation in the market.
The time Michael lost at 62 was decades of compounding he will never get back. The lesson is simple. Don't gamble your remaining time because you feel desperate. Start compounding immediately so you never have to feel desperate later.
We've covered the practical financial traps, the tax structure, the illiquidity, late-stage risk. Let's take a comprehensive view now and reassess the entire archive.
The overarching theme is just so deeply counterintuitive.
It really is. The standard path to financial security, defer your taxes, prioritize paying off debt, hoard for a distant future, it led these successful, diligent people to profound, heartbreaking regret.
Based on their suffering, we have to reverse some of this standard advice.
Let's start with key lesson 1, time over money. This is Thomas's lesson, right? writ large and applied universally.
Exactly. Money can, theoretically, be earned back.
Yeah.
Through work, investments, inheritance. Time cannot.
The source material fundamentally argues against sacrificing your prime, physically capable, high-energy years solely for a retirement you might not live to enjoy.
Or certainly not enjoy with the same vigor. You cannot buy back the energy of your youth at any price.
Which naturally leads us to key lesson 2, liquidity is king.
We have to bring back Sarah and David's agonizing point. A paid-off house may feel good emotionally, but it is not sufficient wealth in retirement.
It may satisfy a balance sheet, but retirement requires cash flow. It requires flexibility and liquidity for immediate expenses, rising taxes, unexpected maintenance, and, crucially, for enjoyment.
I repeat, you can't buy groceries with roof tiles.
You can't. The archives strongly suggest that maintaining a strategic low-interest mortgage while leveraging that capital into liquid growing investment accounts offers far greater long-term financial utility and flexibility in retirement.
Then the single-minded pursuit of debt freedom. The difference is control. Liquid wealth gives you options. Illiquid wealth forces you to sell the house or take out a reverse mortgage.
Desperate moves that Sarah and David are now contemplating.
And the third lesson, and maybe the most overlooked one that connects all of these stories, health is wealth.
This is the silent killer. It connects right back to Arthur M.'s story and his crippling unforeseen medical bills.
The archives find a terrifying consistency. The single biggest, most unpredictable drain on retirement savings is catastrophic healthcare costs.
So we have to fundamentally redefine what a financial investment even means.
Yes. Investing in your body at 30, staying healthy, active, prioritizing good nutrition, paying for that gym membership, taking that preventative measure is arguably the single best long-term financial decision you could make.
Because preventing future chronic illness mitigates future catastrophic costs far more effectively than another 1% return in the stock market.
Your health is the hidden, most crucial investment vehicle you possess. Because without it, all that money you saved will simply be liquidated by the healthcare industry.
So the anti-miser philosophy, it synthesizes the entire archive's tone into one cohesive message. The ultimate goal is not maximal accumulation.
The goal is maximal utility across the entire arc of your life.
The message is urgent. You must invest in experiences while you have the physical capacity to enjoy them. If you can only take a complex, physically demanding trip once in your life, whether it's backpacking through Asia or a major renovation project you do yourself,
You need to budget for that experience now, while your body is still a willing partner. Not defer it until your body betrays you.
these are profound shifts in perspective. They require deep personal reflection.
They require redefining what winning the financial game actually looks like. If winning means having $3 million but dying alone, unable to walk, and still stressing about property taxes, did you truly win?
The consensus from the archives is a resounding, heartbreaking no.
Winning means optimizing wealth to maximize life experience and physical capability at every stage, finding that crucial balance between security and utility.
So what does this all mean? It means we must radically redefine what winning the financial game looks like. It's not just about the final number on the statement.
It is about the quality, the depth, and the fulfillment of the journey to get there. The warnings of Arthur, Sarah, and Thomas are a gift of perspective from the future. So, to wrap up, the Twilight Financial Archives warn us against 3 major mistakes that trapped their authors. First, ignoring the optimal tax structure and relinquishing control to the government.
Second, prioritizing illiquid assets, specifically that paid-off house-over flexible, accessible cash flow.
And third, postponing joy. The infamous later that never came, costing them irreplaceable time and companionship.
These aren't abstract financial warnings. They are confessions of deep, palpable regret from people who ran the financial race perfectly and hit the finish line, only to realize the metal was forged out of misery.
The ultimate provocative question for you, the listener, based on these heartbreaking accounts, has to be answered in your own life today.
Are you optimizing your current life for the person you are now, valuing your limited time, your health, your energy? Or are you sacrificing every measurable joy and comfort for a wealthy future self who may be too frail, too late, or too isolated to enjoy the spoils of your decades of hard work?
The energy, the time, and the physical capability of a person in their 30s is, functionally, a non-fungible asset. It's a resource that depreciates every single day and cannot be replaced or reinvested in later life.
The final thought we want to leave you with, building on Thomas's tragic insight, is to carefully consider what experiences are only available to that version of yourself, the healthy, energetic version.
Go look at your life and budget for those experiences now, before that invaluable physical asset depreciates to zero, and all that money you saved can only buy pain mitigation, not joy.